The race to find treatments and a COVID-19 vaccine continues. Our first guest says a vaccine is a long-term solution that could take a year or more to develop and mass produce. But vaccines don't always work for every patient. Here to share his own personal story on how his family's health challenges led to the quest to find a treatment for COVID-19 is tech entrepreneur and founder of the COVID-19 Early Treatment Funds, Steve Kirsch. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thanks, Aubrey. It's nice to be here.
Tell us about the goal of COVID-19 Early Treatment Fund.
Sure. When the pandemic hit, I realized that I had multiple risk factors, and if I got COVID, I could probably end up dead. So I was pretty motivated to see what could be done with this, with science to make a difference. And so I started reaching out to, I've been funding medical researchers for the past 20 years. And I started reaching out. I asked people, hey, what can we do about this disease? And they told me two very clear messages. They said drug repurposing is the fastest and it's the least expensive way to end the pandemic. And they said that the trials of the most promising drugs were actually not being funded. And I was surprised by that. I talked to, there are about 20 coronavirus experts in the entire world. I talked to 8 of them and I asked them, hey, what drug would you take if you got COVID? And they said the number one response for that question was a drug called Camostat that I had never heard of. And I found that nobody in the world was funding a clinical trial for Camostat. So I took out my checkbook and wrote a check to fund the first clinical trial of Camostat in Denmark. And then when Yale proposed a clinical trial, I funded that as well. And that led to the creation of the COVID Early Treatment Fund, where we basically opened it up. We created a website, treatearly.org. Scientists can come there and get rapid funding for their trials of the most promising drugs. We've had over 50 applications. We have a scientific advisory board of 12 people, and we funded eight of those. And those trials are ongoing. And so far, we've just got amazing results. I mean, we have one drug that when people took it, none of them were hospitalized. And if they took the placebo, we had an 8% hospitalization rate. So that's a dramatic difference to have 0 hospitalizations.
Right. Okay, Steve, so why are you saying treatment over vaccine?
Well, because vaccines, it's going to take, it could take a year or more before you're going to get a vaccine. A lot of people aren't going to take a vaccine. I mean, there's surveys that show that maybe 50% of the people aren't going to take a vaccine. And even if you take a vaccine, that's no guarantee that it's actually going to work in your body, especially if you're an older person. So vaccines have, the best vaccines in the world have a 99% effectiveness rate. But a lot of, depending on what the disease is, it could be a lot less than that. And so you can't just rely on a vaccine.
Okay. So you're a tech entrepreneur, but you've taken interest in funding these research trials.
Sure. I'm a problem solver at heart. I talk to the scientists. Here's what the scientists say. And I'm just basically helping the scientists and helping them raise funds. So people like Bert Vogelstein, he's the most cited scientist of all time. He has a drug that can reduce the hospitalization rate by 80% or more. He needs $1 million for his study, and he couldn't get funding. And so I said, hey, look, I can marshal the resources to help these scientists out. So I created this website, treatearly.org. People can go if they want to make a difference. If this disease has impacted you, please make a difference and go to the treatearly.org, make a donation, let people know about it on social media. And also, hey, if you happen to have COVID, if you happen to get it, if one of the 30 million people who have gotten COVID, please enroll in one of these clinical trials and help us to gather the data so that we can prove that drug repurposing works. And, so far the evidence is that it does work, and it's going to be game-changing for this disease.
All right, Steve Kirsch, we want to thank you for sharing your personal story. And if you want more information, you can visit that website he mentioned, treatearly.org.
This interview involves commercial content. The products and services featured appear as paid advertising.